Welcome back to Kettlebells and Cocktails. I'm your host, John, back with my bestie, Nikki. Nikki, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing tonight?
I'm sick again.
Get out! Get
Again.
out! No! Did you stop your steroids?
No, I'm still on the roids, baby.
Go on the roids. No,
Still on
but
the
seriously, like
roids.
that was supposed to be clearing out whatever you had going on. What the hell
Well, the
happened?
cough is gone. Now it's just a head cold. I'm like, this is great.
Oh,
I can't go on a trip without coming back with something. Fortunately, it's very mild, and I am taking the smart route, and I'm reducing stress, and I'm eating really healthy food, and getting my life together. So I think it's very mild. It'll pass quickly.
yeah, that's funny. That's been going around. I know like 10 people who have it right now too. I think my baby brought it to Matt, who brought it to my mom. I don't know how I didn't get it, but
I'm just gonna start walking around with like a water gun full of Purell and just start shooting people in the face with it, man. I'm just sick and tired of getting sick and tired. It's just exhausting.
yeah.
It's absolutely exhausting and very frustrating because
Sorry.
it keeps me out of the gym. But I'll be all right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna live. I'll
Okay.
survive this one.
I'm just glad it's not bad like it was. Like if you were like, oh, I am back with a fever and I have another cough and whatever, I'd be like, man, you can't catch a break for real. But you kind of can't catch a break. I'm sorry.
Monday was rough. I had that. You ever have that? It's one of those colds where you feel like you have to sneeze constantly, but you're not sneezing. It's just like this tickle in your face. You know,
I hate that.
face energy, as James Sprague says. Yes.
I hate face pressure so much. Like I don't know if this is like a little known fact about me. I don't know about if I've ever said this out loud to you before, but like one of my really weird anxiety triggers, because everybody has like one weird one where you're like, that's stupid. Why does that bother you? One of my like really, really weird anxiety triggers is if I can't pop my ears. Like, like when you land in a plane, how annoying it is. You feel like you're underwater. And most people are like, yeah, that sucks. It's annoying, but like, let me move on with my life. I cannot move on with my life. It just sends me into an absolute like nervous breakdown. Isn't that so stupid?
No, it's not stupid at all. Because I certainly have had those moments. Ears get clogged up. Like I can't.
I just can't deal with life. I just can't. And I like my panicky brain, and anyone who has anxiety who's listening to this knows exactly what I mean. But my panicky brain is like, that's it. I'm never going to hear normally again. That's it. Like, mark the time. Nikki's ears went haywire for life because of the common cold, like, or because of like landing in one plane. Like, it's just the worst. I hate it. I think I'm the only one that has that trigger, but
I bet you're not the only one. Well, if everyone can throw in the comments whether
your weird anxiety triggers. Yes, please.
Everybody put your weird anxiety triggers in the comments. That'll be fun.
I can't wait.
That'll be fun. Well, I'm excited about our show tonight. We have our guest Dylan Wahlstrom was introduced to me by my coach and business partner Jen from Chagrin Falls CrossFit, but she also owns To Be Human, which is a nutrition company, and she was working with Dylan and said, this guy's got a great story. You guys should talk to him. I'm like, all right, here he is. So Dylan's on our show. Dylan, what's going on, man?
How's it going, y'all?
Good to meet you. Good to see you. Good to hear you. All the mediums that we're on.
You got a good look going on too. Hairdo, beard, looks great, man. I like.
Yeah, you guys are twinning. Where's your Noble sweatshirt, John?
Yeah, well, I can't afford one, but Noble.
Yeah, it's one of those things at the gym when I walk in, they're like, oh, there's Dylan. We can tell from all the Noble that he's wearing.
Are you head to toe Noble? Everything, shoes, shorts, the whole deal.
Everything but their shoes. I'm just gonna leave it there.
Well, that's weird. No, wait. We can't leave it there. Why are you not wearing the shoes? If you got why do you wear the gear and not the shoes? That seems weird.
So I think that they have really comfortable shirts, hoodies, pants. Everything's comfortable. When it comes to their shoes, they just feel like they're cinder blocks that they didn't put as much thought into them.
Yeah, Matt doesn't. My husband doesn't love them. Well, he likes the newer ones. Have you tried any of the newer ones?
So I tried the pluses. They weren't nearly as bad, but I'm just a Reebok, or I actually just got those tiers down in a Wadapalooza.
Yeah.
I mean, all of those just feel like they just, put a little more thought into it.
That's interesting. Well, yeah, everybody's got their particulars, especially when it comes to shoes. I totally get it. Have you guys seen those new Strike Movement shoes? Sorry, Gear Chat.
No,
I've heard really good things about them.
Yeah.
My Tom, who's the second half of To Be Human, and also my business partner, has I don't know how many pairs he has now. I swear to God, he's got 3 or 4 pairs. Like every time he shows up, they're a different color. I'm like, bro, how many of those have you bought? He's like, as many as I need. He won't give me a number, so I know it's like 3 or more.
Is he the one that like basically is Matt? Like they talk about the same morning sun, circadian rhythm stuff.
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
that's it. So now that confirms it that I absolutely need to get him a pair.
And he loves them. Like
He does.
it's all he wears now. He just raves about them.
All right. I'll buy a pair for Matt. Fine.
The strike movement for Matt. We've got the new tier shoes for Dylan. I'm wearing lately. You'll like this, Nikki. The Under Armour Tri-Base Rain 5s.
Ooh,
They're
I have not worn them
great.
since the 4s. The 3s are my favorite though.
The 5s are so much better than the 3s.
Really?
So much better. And the 3s were great. Don't get me wrong.
Mhm.
Like I've loved every version of that shoe. But these are great. They're so good.
Man, I haven't even thought about looking into Under Armour for shoes.
Oh, they're so good.
The Tri-Base
They have
okay.
they have a solid team of professional CrossFit athletes that help, like including James Newbury, who help design them by like putting them through just like day in, day out testing. So
heck yeah.
Yeah, it's really, they're highly recommend. They're awesome.
Yeah, I honestly went through probably a year of buying shoes and trying different ones out. It's I haven't tried the Rad shoes and I haven't tried the Under Armour ones. So
Rads are great too.
Yeah, Rads are great too. Matt says that he can't really feel much of a difference between his Rads and his tiers. Like they're a very similar structure, very similar fit.
Yeah, one was free. So
there's that. There's that.
But
right. Quote unquote free. Did you volunteer at Wadapalooza?
No, so we competed. Yep. So competed down there, and they gave them to us, but we also paid $300 some odd. So kind of got them for free.
yeah, kind of hardcore, kind of.
It counts. But look, the tiers are great. They're much lighter than the Rads. So like if you like a heavier shoe, and they've also got a little the heel's a little higher, a little thicker.
See, I like that. I was lunging in the my Nanos the other day. Jen actually yesterday forced me to do 400 meters of lunging with a weighted vest.
That sounds like her.
Yeah. Well, walking today was just not happening
Question.
Every time I got up, falling down, not great. But the heel of the Nano, I kept slipping out, and I was like, "This is why I've been wearing the new tiers, because that doesn't happen anymore." Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. This has been Gear Chat.
I know. I didn't realize we were going to do an entire shoe review while we were on here. This was good.
We might as well do this every week, because I feel like every week a new shoe comes out, and if anyone's going to test it, it's the people on the show for sure.
Just ask every guest moving forward what shoe are they wearing.
What shoes you wearing?
What shoes do you wear? What it's on right now?
Tell me what's on right now. Oh my God! All right, well, Dylan, I'm dying to know, because I don't have a ton of details, but I know that you have a really special relationship with CrossFit and how it has impacted your life. And so I'm super stoked to have you on to be able to tell your story. And I'm glad that John sort of like made the connection via John. You being an affiliate owner is pulling the coolest stories into the podcast. I'm really loving it. So yeah, Dylan, just give us a little bit of your background and history and tell us how CrossFit has impacted your world.
Cool. Yep. So I've been doing CrossFit for roughly 3 years. We'll call it 3 years. And when I got introduced to CrossFit, I actually weighed over 300 pounds. I've been overweight the majority of my adult life. Just one of the scenarios to where, yo-yo diets, very common, just kind of going up and down. And there was one point, I guess we'll just go deep into it now, where I weighed about 260 pounds. And I remember looking at the scale, and one of the scenarios where I was like, you can stop now, or you can just keep going. I don't know why I made that decision to keep going, but I was like, you know what, who cares? Let's just keep going down this path and enjoy food, enjoy eating. For whatever reason, this was a pretty large crutch for me. It was one of the scenarios where I viewed food as a relationship in a way, and it was not a great relationship. So kept going down that path, gained a lot of weight, had my 2 daughters over this time period. And I remember going down to Disney, and we did the where they dress your kid up like a princess, and they're like, "Oh, Dad,
the Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique." Yes, I'm all about it. Can't wait someday to take my kid to Disney and go there.
Yeah. It's really a lot. It was a ton of fun, and I was super excited to take a picture with her. Well, we got the pictures back, and I just took up the entire half of the photo with my daughter, and I was like, whoa, like, I do not want this to be a memory for her. I don't want her to like see me and be like, this is really how I should live my life, or that this is okay. So that was a big shifting point for me. And when we got back, I just made this decision that it was, time to lose some weight. And I started focusing on eating, trying to eat right, eat a little bit less. Wasn't doing anything right, of course. And my buddy at work was just, in normal CrossFit fashion. Hey, buddy, you heard of CrossFit? And I was like, no, what's CrossFit? And he's like, oh, you're going to love it. So he just gave me a high level that it was, kind of competitive based fitness, and I should just go check it out. So I went to my local affiliate where I now part-time coach, and just asked to try out a class and walked in, like I said, 300 plus, and the rest is kind of history.
That is, first of all, the coolest story ever. Congratulations, my friend,
Thank you.
because that's just, this was over the course of about 3 years. You've gotten to your level of fitness right now. Is that what you'd say? Yeah.
Yeah. About 3 years. I mean, I lost about 100 pounds in the first year, just went really hard in the nutrition side of things. And I just wasn't letting anything get in my way. And that was good, but it wasn't sustainable for sure.
Yeah. Okay, I am like made of questions. So
yep, let's do it.
So first of all, take me back to your unhealthy relationship with food, because I think that so many of us struggle with this. And it's not always like on that trajectory. It's not always like, I don't think all of us have that moment where it's like, okay, I'm 265 and I'm either going to keep doing this or I'm not. But I do think that like on a weekly basis, I struggle with this, right? Like my relationship with food is like Monday through Friday, I feel some kind of way about it. Like I'm either quote unquote doing good, or like I ate something that I quote unquote shouldn't have eaten. And on the weekends, it's kind of a free for all. And then on Monday, I feel bad about it again. And it's like, I just feel like people don't oftentimes talk enough about, yeah, it's difficult to lose weight, or like, yeah, it's difficult to like not crave delicious things, but it's really wrapped up in this high level relationship with food that we are like feeling is either good or bad, or we're blaming ourselves for, or whatever. And I would love to hear how you finally evaluated what that was and what it needed to be. Because I feel like you can't just walk in one day and be like, I'm going to lose 100 pounds this year and call it a day. Like there's something there you must identify and decide to change. Yeah.
So when it came down to it, I found myself in a way kind of ashamed. There's like shame involved with it. Just like you said, like bad food. I drive by, let's just say McDonald's in the morning on the way to work. And every Monday I remember telling myself, tomorrow you're not going to stop, and you're not going to stop, and you're not going to get, a large OJ. And looking back, it's like, 1,300 calories of food, what I would order. And it was a scenario I get down to the office. This is, before COVID, and somebody would say, oh, we're going to go get, some pancakes or something. You want to come? And I'd be like, oh yeah, I didn't eat breakfast yet. Well, that's something's wrong there. Cause I already ate breakfast, but for some reason I felt that it was okay to kind of lie and, not be honest with them or myself that, I already ate. I didn't need to eat. But for whatever reason, I had this like strong, I'd say almost addiction to eating unhealthy and really going down this path. So when it came to that relationship, it was fairly toxic. And it was a scenario to where breaking that bond of just constantly being full and constantly just indulging, I had to figure out how to essentially break that relationship down to where it's like, no, food is here, and food's great. I still love food, and I still indulge. After Wadapalooza, I had a blast, and but it was essentially, from my standpoint, it was a controlled, like I understood what I was doing, versus back then it was just kind of, if it was there, I was going to eat it. And if there was no kind of right, wrong, or anything, it was just, let's go and let's continue to eat until really I couldn't anymore.
Well, the concept of control is really interesting, where like now you have a sense of like, yes, it is there, and yes, I can, or I cannot, or I can choose this, or I cannot, versus like just this sense of chaos. Yeah. Where it's like, is it there? Is it in front of me? It's going in my mouth. You know what I mean? Or like, and John, you're really good about like when to dial in nutrition versus when. I feel like you've got this control thing down pat, and you do a really great job in forming habits. I feel like.
Who, me?
Yeah. Like
Oh,
at
I
a time
love going
period.
off the rails, Nikki. I
Yeah,
love it.
I know you do. I know you do. But I feel like when you're in it, you're like, cool, like I know what I'm doing. I have a solid sense of control of my diet. And after like a couple of weeks, you're like, oh, I'm used to this. Like now this is a habit. I can't wait for tequila, but this is a habit.
I'm a goal setter, but
Mhm.
I think I probably have a lot in common besides hairdo with Dylan, in that like I have like the same kind of relationship with food. Like I'll just eat till I'm stuffed,
Yeah.
given my own resources. That's why I'm a goal setter, because I know if I don't create a goal for myself, like what's next, I'll go off the rails. And, I don't know if I would ever reach the point that Dylan's describing where I would get to 300 pounds, but I come from a family that's not thin.
Same girl,
I,
same.
I grew up in the South,
Yep.
man. We had sweet tea at every meal and,
Mhm.
biscuits and gravy. And I love that stuff. It's so good.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say I ever formed good eating habits. I have a terrible relationship with food.
Explain. That's so interesting because I feel like when you from the outside looking in, and I know you, John, but from the outside looking in, it's like, here are these two dudes that are like lean and they're strong. And, we've talked about on the podcast when you have a goal and how you dial in your training and your nutrition. So it's really interesting to hear you, John, say so that you have a bad relationship with food, because I feel like from the outside looking in, it's like, oh, this guy's got his shit together. So what makes you say that?
Well, I think I have this, this kind of the same emotional state you guys have described,
Mm-hmm.
which is, you'll eat something and feel guilty about it, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and you go off the rails for it's kind of like you go off the rails for 3 or 4 days and you're like, you reach that point that Dylan's describing. You're like, all right, I can stop now,
Mm-hmm.
or just say, F it, I'm going to Sunday and I'm just going to go all in until Sunday and I'll change again Monday. And then Monday
Yeah.
rolls around and you get to work and somebody's brought Krispy Kremes and you're like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
those are so good. I got to have a Krispy Kreme.
Yeah.
And then,
100%.
yeah, and then you feel
Yeah.
guilty again,
Yeah.
and so it's hard. And so like I recognize that myself, that I have these addictive tendencies
Yeah.
in my life,
Yeah.
and
That's interesting.
like a perfect example. Right now I have a fridge full, and I mean full, of non-alcoholic beer.
Mm.
And there's not a drop of real alcohol in the house, because I
Okay.
know, left to my own resources, I love alcohol. I'll drink it, but the fake beer tastes the same, and this LaCroix gives me the exact same sensation.
Okay.
Yep.
It's like comforting, you know what I mean? So like you just create different, I just create these different habits in my life that help me offset the kind of the craziness that goes on in my head, where I'm like, you know what? McGriddle sounds good. I'll just go jump in the car and go to McDonald's.
Hell yeah.
They are
Yeah.
delicious.
Yeah.
They are delicious,
No,
by the way.
totally. No, this is good. I'm glad to take a hot second to talk about it, because it's very clearly something that everybody struggles with. And it's very clearly something that, we could all work on. And I think the more we say it out loud, the more it like becomes okay to, I don't know, have like the mental weakness that you need
Yep.
to acknowledge if you are willing to change it. And to me, the weakness is not like, oh, I gave into this food. To me, the weakness is like, oh, I'm getting down on myself. No, I should not do that. I should be strong and tell myself that there is no good food and no bad food. There is just like the decisions I make for my body and what are my goals and what do I need to reach them. And if today was a cookie day, then today was a cookie day. And if tomorrow's a broccoli day, then hell yeah, tomorrow's going to be a broccoli day.
Yeah. During the open, there's this weird habit I formed, kind of superstition last year, to where me and my kids would go get crumble cookies, and I would eat a
Mm.
quarter the day before I did a redo, and I always scored better. Um,
Yes. Excellent excuse
so
to eat a crumble cookie.
exactly. So this year, well, Jen's gonna hear this. Sorry, Jen. I did the same thing on Sundays, but every Sunday night, when that 3/4 of the cookie was left, that shit went in the garbage, because
Mm.
I was like, nope, that's what this is here for. And it's not because I can't control, my habits or anything like that. It was just like, I knew the intent of why we did it and why I had it in the house. And it was like, cool, that's done. Move on. So really focusing on the controllables in my life, was essentially what led to being able to get to this point. Very much like
Cool.
John said, setting those goals, focusing on what you can control.
And now when you saw that photo of yourself with your daughter and I love that you had the realization, not necessarily like oh, I don't look the way that I want to look. But I mean, I'm sure that was part of it. But I love that you also had this realization that was like, I don't want to set this example for my kid or kids, one or two daughters at the time, kids. So what was the catalyst for that?
Yeah. I grew up in the restaurant industry, essentially. So my dad is in the restaurant industry. He's always either run restaurants, cooked a ton of stuff. Me and him were both fairly overweight growing up. And, you generally follow, what your parents do at that point. And he eventually got fit. My whole family's fairly fit now, which was really awesome. And
cool.
I love that. And the part of me that was so worried though was, am I setting this example now for my kid? She was 4 or 5 at the time, and I knew that at least if I could make that change now, they look back at those photos and they say, "Whoa, Dad, you were really overweight. You were big." And I was like, "Yeah, I definitely was," but it doesn't seem like it was really those habits. They didn't really see me overindulging and kind of losing control, which is great because in my mind, at least, I feel like I kind of made that change in time for them. And that was essentially my goal there, was making that change before they could really latch on to those habits. And going forward, I try to teach them the best I can when it comes to nutrition, not to be focused on, I'm not telling them like macros and all this crazy stuff, but when we're eating dinner, I talk about prioritizing protein, hey, like we're sitting down to eat, we should definitely prioritize like the protein, the veggies here. Do they still eat French fries and all that good stuff? Of course they do. They're kids. But when it comes down to it, they at least are starting to understand what parts of the plate really matter and what parts to not focus as much on.
You both are girl dads, which I feel like makes it 10,000 times harder to approach the topics of nutrition and healthy eating and all the complicated things that swirl around them. And we could talk for 2-3 hours about this topic alone, but I would love to hear from both of you guys. I don't know, a couple of the ways that you approach those types of conversations where you're explaining to your girls, like, we do this to be healthy, we do this to be strong, we do this to, and try so hard to stay away from like, we do this to look a certain way, or we do this so that you're not fat because like society says you can't be fat. Like there's just, oh my God, there's so many eggshells to step on. Like I don't even know where to put my toes. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah, John, you want to jump in or you want me to go first?
Well, yeah, you go ahead.
All right. So, my kids are 5 and 7, and so they're still at that age to where everything is new to them. But they ask me constantly, Dad, why are you up at 5 o'clock? You don't have to work till, X time. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to the gym. And they're like, yeah, to get strong, to live longer. Right. And I'm like, exactly. And that's like,
oh my God, that's like the first thing that comes to their mind. That's amazing.
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly. So to me, it's a lot of this stuff that I guess gets like pushed, they don't see the stuff in the media yet because they're not, on YouTube, they're not on Instagram, they're not on all these things where they actually see what's going on. But at the end of the day, they still are aware that, they'll make those comments about like pictures of me. And I'm like, yeah, but that's like, also that's okay. Like that doesn't make me a bad person when I was overweight. I was just, I was just unhealthy at the time. And I was very unhealthy. And here's what that led to, was having high blood pressure, and what that, could have ended up happening with that. So really, flipping that conversation fairly quickly, not to focus on the image part, but more so about the unhealthy habits that were there, rather than saying, oh yeah, Dad was, really big and he didn't look great, and all these other items I could focus on.
Yeah.
I always told my girls I did it for them. Like when I got into fitness because of them. Like I didn't want to be the, grown father chasing their kids around, holding his knees, huffing and puffing because he couldn't keep up with them. The running joke in our family was always the opposite. Like I remember taking them to Disney, ironically to Disney one year, and we were flying through Atlanta and we thought we were going to miss our connection. And so we had to run. And Atlanta's, for those who've been through the Atlanta airport, that thing's big.
Yeah.
And I forget which concourses we were on, but we had to go to like across 3 concourses to get there. And I was literally had them by the hands and like, I'm running, and you can't run crazy fast with holding on to the hands of 2 little girls who are like if I remember right, 9 and 7, maybe. But I remember when we got there, they were both about to cough up a lung, and I felt fine.
Yeah.
Nice. Gave them
And
Fran cough.
yeah, and I think they never forgot that. But so for me, like I always did it because I wanted to be healthy for them, not for crazy other reasons. And then in regards to them, like my mindset was always they'll watch the example and learn from that. I don't need to lecture them or
Mm.
give them, kind of extra beyond that, other than I've always told them to be happy with who they are. Like I'm not encouraging them to be thin. I'm not encouraging them to be muscular. I'm just trying to provide them good opportunity, and then they make their choices from it. And fortunately, I think they both have grown into very confident, have always had way more self-confidence than I do. Like I've always been very self-conscious about my body and myself, and they're both, kind of care, that's where I'm happiest is they both are the opposite of that. They have
Yeah.
tons of self-confidence, and they don't kind of have these same body issues, so at least to my knowledge, that I grew up with. So
Mm.
but when you have girls, you worry about that a little bit, because
Totally.
society is saying, be thin, look this way, wear this makeup, wear your hair like this. And so, you worry about the impact it's going to have on them. But I think I threaded that needle pretty well. And, to be
Yeah.
fair, I have a, very supportive ex-wife who did a lot of work there too. So,
Yeah.
it takes more than one person for
Team
sure.
effort. Team
Yep.
effort. I'm taking notes, you guys, because it is obviously like heightened for girls, young girls growing up in today's day and age. But boys feel those pressures too, of course. And
Yeah.
so not to alienate any of our male listeners, because I hear you and I see you as well. It's really been rough, man. It's been rough, like in society recently, especially just everyone's got to look and be a certain way. And there's high standards across the board. It's scary, like honestly, raising kids into that and already thinking about how in the heck am I going to navigate all of that stuff when he's at an age where he's going to feel pressure to be away or look away or talk away or be interested in certain things or be good at certain things versus other things. And it's
I'll be interested in
scary.
Dylan's opinion on this, because I was thinking
Yeah.
about this week, particularly in our space. So, like in the CrossFit space, and for those of us that are on social media a lot, me more than others, you see, all you see in the CrossFit space are people with their shirts off, ripped abs, setting PRs, so strong, and like kind of all these amazing feats of strength and gymnastics and whatever. And for me, it takes a real emotional toll on me sometimes, because I'll never be that, and for all the people that are going, just work hard, you can be. No, you can't. I'll never be Noah Olson or Chandler
Right.
Stone or some of these
Yep.
guys, right? Or even, even guys looking at some of the women, you're like, I'll never be Annie Thor's daughter. Like,
Also true. Right.
and so there is a thing of where you go, you just some days just want to go screw it, and you order the extra large pizza and the bread
Yeah, you are so right.
and go to town. And so I guess my question for you, Dylan, is like, coming from where you've come from to where you are, but still kind of immersed in this community, how do you battle that, or do you have to battle that at all?
Yeah. No, that's a great question. When I see that stuff, it drives me to continue more so. So if I look at really what I've done in the last 3 years, I have traded one addiction in a way for another. I'm very, very, very involved. Like going to the gym is non-negotiable. It's just one of those things that when I'm when we go to Disney now, I essentially make sure that I am going to the gym before we go and, walk around these parks for miles. And then when I think about seeing this stuff online, I'm like, oh, I can't do that today, but I'm going to go to the gym for an extra, 30 minutes and try to push myself a little bit more to get there. I know I'm very well aware that, I'm never going to be Noah Olson and be able to, get to that size, get to that aesthetic, do what he does. But at the end of the day, it does drive me a bit. Now, back when I first started, it bummed me out.
It did. Interesting.
Very much so. So it's one of those scenarios where if I was having a day that maybe I didn't see the scale move, maybe I didn't notice it different for a couple of weeks, it was very easy to quickly not spiral, but start saying, well, maybe we can just not be as involved, or maybe we just don't really double down here. And I had to really shift that mindset over time.
That, I feel like, especially in the beginning, is so difficult because you can get to the point where you're seeing results and results are motivating, and that's great. And we can talk about plateaus down the line, but even just to walk through the front door. I mean, when you were 300 some odd pounds and your buddy was like, hey, have you tried, hey, I'm a vegan, and have you tried CrossFit? And also, have you accepted the Lord Jesus Christ as your personal Lord? Like, I mean, it's one of those things, right? Like, how did you not roll your eyes? How did you find the courage to actually set foot into the box?
So I posted on social media the day that I was starting my diet. I was
accountability.
Yep, I was shirtless.
Ooh.
Oh yeah, well, maybe not that exciting, but yeah,
I mean,
was shirtless, and I just was like, hey, I'm going to lose this weight finally. And it was one of those scenarios where it wasn't because I wanted people to say, oh, good job, like, you're great, and get that attention. It was more so I could document my journey, because a lot of this was, of course there's a ton of physical change, but so much of it was mental. And I wanted to find joy in the journey so that I could continue to keep going. So writing was a big part of it. And I just shared that writing. I shared those updates. So when I heard about CrossFit, I was like, oh, well, this is something that's uncomfortable. And what I've learned is every time I lean into being uncomfortable, something great happens. It rarely does not end up that way. But if I don't lean into those areas, generally, I know that I'll stay where I'm at. So it's kind of a choice that I continue to make, and I continue to make. Going to Wadapalooza was terrifying the first time. I had no business being there, and I still signed up, and I still went. And I was like, just don't get last place. I got 29th out of 40.
Not last.
And I was like, hey, look at that, And I remember walking into the CrossFit gym, though, weighing that 300 pounds, and it was front squats and box jumps, and I basically did air squats, did one box step up, and almost passed out. And the coach was like, hey, buddy, time to sit down. Here's your aid, and just take a breather. And 10 minutes later, I was like, okay, I'm ready to get back to it. He's like, nah, like, you can come back tomorrow though. And
you're like, one more workout, come on, let's go.
Exactly. And at that point, though, I remember a member coming up to me and saying, hey, what size shoe do you wear? And I was like, why is this weird guy asking me what size shoe I wear? And I'm like, I wear, 10 and a half, 11. And he's like, oh, bummer, I have 9s in my car. I could have, lend them to you. I was like, oh, wow, this is really weird, but also really awesome. So it was like my first introduction to the community part of it. So It was a scenario where it just kept building and building to where I was like, this place is really awesome. And I definitely want to come back just because of the people.
Yeah. That's great. I think so many people struggle with that first step, that first show up for buddy day, or like, oh, why don't you just try this thing out? Like, it's tough to convince someone who's not really ready.
Yeah. And I mean, being a part-time coach now and having people show up and having to be that first person, I love to talk to them and learn about what their story is and why they're there. So hopefully that I can eliminate any of those fears out the gate.
Hey, I have a question for you, Dylan. Do you know what a mouth hole is?
I do.
We need to talk about our mouth holes real quick.
Okay, real quick. Excellent segue, John. Can I just say that this episode is brought to you by Airwave, the thing you put in your mouth hole. Trademark.
To have a chocolate milk flavor, apparently, because they love that idea from the last time we talked about it.
Listen, we're smart. Between your like brain for business and my brain for marketing, I really think we could make this happen.
I think chocolate milk flavored Airwaves would sell like chocolate milk.
Like chocolate milk cakes.
Yes.
Chocolate milk waves. Dylan, have you ever trained with an Airwave?
I have. I actually have 2 of them.
What? Airwave, sponsor this man immediately.
Well, it's totally unplanned. Totally unplanned, but we need to get you some free product because
that's great. Why do you like it? Explain.
Yep. So a scenario to where when I'm breathing, I tend to just get out of control, and it just helps me essentially regulate that and just be very, focused on keeping that regulated breath throughout the workout. and especially with lifting, if I'm running, I come in a lift, it just kind of keeps that heart rate down a little bit when I get back in from a run.
Fun fact, this was last year, 2 years ago, when I took the aerobic capacity course with Chris Henshaw, he had this whole section explaining how when you're wildly out of breath or your breathing isn't like regulated, your brain freaks out into thinking that you don't have enough oxygen in your body, and it like throws up your cortisol and it like throws up your anxiety. And that's kind of why you hit the wall and you feel like you cannot go on truly. It's not because your body's giving out, it's because your brain is like, you have no oxygen, so you should stop because you might die. So that is truly why the airwave does help. This is not medical advice. Oh my God. But that is one way that the airwave helps, like you said, like really control your breathing and give you just a little bit of an edge so that you can trick your brain back into being like, nah, we're cool. We got this. Okay, if this is your first time ever hearing this, let me just say it is a small fitted mouthpiece that sits over your bottom teeth. You can mold it as many times as you want. You can talk and breathe with it in. It is not like the night guard you sleep with, or like the mouth guard that you wore when you were in middle school. And it's a really cool training tool. It does help you. It positions your jaw in a way that allows for optimal airflow, and it can help on longer workouts, help you get a second wind, not hit a wall. It can help you with recovery because of the way you bite down, and that releases cortisol in your body. So many good things. And if I have not convinced you yet, then you should use our code KC10 and go try one out for yourself. It's Airwave, AIRWAAV.com.
We did not even set that up.
No, we truly didn't. We really.
That was perfect.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. We should ask questions before we start recording sometimes. No. We should do any amount of research.
We were, when you're talking about breathing and losing control, it made me think of 23.2. And near the end there was probably like 3 minutes left. I remember running through the shuttle line multiple times and just not paying attention. I just kept running like Forrest Gump style. And I remember my judge be like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Oh, right." He's like, "Touch the ground, turn around, go back." And I literally think it was one of those scenarios where my brain was like anxiously just being like, "Dude, we don't know what's going on. You just need to just get out of the gym, leave this place. You're about to die.
Leave, run away."
Exactly. Run away from the thruster that's about to come.
You know, one of the interesting things about weight loss to me is that your body adapts to like all these things that are going on, and your body adapts to extreme weight loss. And oftentimes you don't even realize it. Was there ever a point for you where all of a sudden the workouts started to feel easier? Like I remember I lost, 10 pounds, not that long back, but I remember my gymnastics got better, and I didn't notice it until one day I had to do a lot of bar muscle ups. So all of a sudden I'm like, holy crap. Like, how did these get so easy? Did you ever have that moment, or was it just such a kind of a long process? You just adapted into it.
So I'd say the first really 2.5, almost, it was really when I started working with Jen, and most recently, I was at 18 or 19% when I met her body fat. So I was, roughly 180 something pounds, 190. And everything at that point was kind of progressive up until then. So it wasn't this massive change. It was just kind of happened as it did. The last 4 months, I lost 4% body fat working with Jen and Tom. And that made a massive difference when it came to gymnastics. So just, I remember hopping up on the bar one day and a bar muscle up just felt effortless. And it was like, oh, okay, this is cool. I like this. And honestly, it was those tiny wins, and even double unders just felt a little bit lighter. So they weren't as taxing on my calves, burpee box jumpers, things where it really just came down to body weight. All of that made a massive difference, but it wasn't really until I from a 4% difference in such a quick amount of time that I had a noticeable difference there.
So how'd you switch this body comp? I mean, I know how, but I need you to say it. So
yeah, no, you're good. So essentially just focused on, eating whole foods was a big thing. But when it came down to, I worked with a ton of nutritionists and tried my own thing, and I could always lose the weight. When you think about calories in, calories out, we all know how to lose weight there. One thing that was super interesting when I talked to Tom was that because I'd lost all that weight, my cells were, predisposition to actually easily take on fat. And when it came to carbs, and in CrossFit, we always hear, eat gummy bears during the workout and as your pre-workout, and you need to fill that glycogen. Well, in my case, I was actually getting lightheaded when I would do stuff like that or drink Gatorade or have that sugar. And I didn't understand why. And he's like, well, hate to say it, man, but because of you being as overweight as you are, you don't get to do that. And we went a little bit higher on the fats. So like pushing that fat up a little bit, good fats, olive oils, things, nuts, things of that nature, pushing that up a little bit and really dialing in on the macro side of things, as well as eating whole foods. And it wasn't like we're, people think about eating whole foods. I'm not eating, boiled chicken. At the end of the day, I pressure cook chicken, and forming those habits, all of that stuff makes the world of difference. I have an air fryer. I actually have 3 air fryers on the counter. I love my wife, and of course she's going to listen to this, but she probably thinks I'm insane because there's like the double tray air fryer. There's another air fryer there. And because of that, though, I can just throw a bunch of veggies in, and it takes all of 5 minutes. And it's really just sustainable habits with the whole foods that was just a no-brainer. It took it down. And on top of it, I still had breaks in there. I went to Universal, and I ate 4 red velvet donuts on my birthday. Birthday's on Christmas.
Yeah.
And I went to town for the majority of that vacation, and I had a break after Wadapalooza, and I still got to that 4%. So, when it comes down to it, I used to beat myself up very much so, like you said, Nikki. And I think because of the goals that I had set and the planned breaks, that's what made the real big difference there. None of it was essentially out of control.
Yeah.
You know what's interesting about this body comp thing is it's like finding a cheat code. It's like you've but you have to hunt for it. It's hard. Like trying to prioritize protein is so hard to like get it just right. Like you think, like, if, as an example, if I want to weigh 180 pounds, you got to do like a gram of protein per pound of body weight, right? So I got to take in 180 grams of protein. That's a lot of freaking protein. And it's easy to sit here and go, all right, well, how many protein shakes is that? Until you start like figuring out the things that have a lot of protein. That you can sneak in. I'm going to give you one that I just found, and I've been doing this for a while, but I just like in the last couple of weeks, and I'm loving it, is bone broth.
Yes, I
Really?
love bone broth.
I found
So
this
good.
brand. It's called Bright Start. You can get it on Amazon. Again, not sponsored, but it's great. And they're single servings. And so they're these little cups. They don't have to be refrigerated. You just drop them into 8 ounces of boiling water, and you stir it until it's like a gelatin, until it dissolves. And it's 20 grams of protein, 16 grams of collagen, and it's 90 calories.
Wow.
And
and it's tasty?
It tastes great. So
like a salty broth?
Yeah. So like the first day I got sick, I went and got some. It's got ginger and turmeric in it. And I had a couple of those. So, you do 2 of those over the course of the day. It's 40 grams of protein.
Will you send me a link to that?
I will send you
your
some.
Amazon card.
I want you some.
I would love that. I've actually had such a hard time with protein, getting enough protein in my diet. I have like a weird relationship with protein now ever since I was pregnant, because it was like so gross to me while I was pregnant, just meat in general, which is like super common. And then in the, year and a half since having a kid, it's like, you don't have time to eat anything, let alone prioritize protein. And, the toddler jokes of like, you fix all the food or you do all the things. And at the end of the day, like your food is just like scraping the bottom of the mac and cheese bowl or something. It's all true. Right. I can't even tell you how many times I've just had puffs for a meal. I'm like, you're not going to eat this shit? I'll eat this shit. But it's been like weird to get back on the horse of macronutrients and like not even counting them, just being like, I know I need more of this. It's been bizarre.
Well, this is such a cheat code for me. Like all of a sudden I'm like, all right, it's 20 calories. And if I have that with my breakfast, which also includes a yogurt, a Greek yogurt, which has 15 grams of protein, I'm at 35 grams before I've done anything.
Yeah, that's solid.
It's like having a chicken breast, and it's super easy. And so you look for little things like that. And then all of a sudden you like look up, and to your point, you're like, how did I drop, 4% body fat in 4 months? It's because you're starting to prioritize the right things. It's like, it's a really, really interesting thing. And I got to be honest, I'm sure you felt the same way, Dylan, or I should ask if you do. Like when Jen and Tom turned me onto this, I was like, Tom, I know you're a doctor, but you're a quack. Like this is not going to work. Like, because they're increasing fats and you're taking a ton of protein and you're not really reducing carbs that much. Like,
Yeah.
there's still a calorie.
Fueling you.
Yeah, there's still a calorie limit.
Yeah.
There's still the rule that you got to burn more calories than you're taking in. But as I've been kind of focusing on tracking yesterday, and so because I want to feel healthy, I quit eating at 6 p.m. and I was full.
Mm.
And I didn't eat 3,000 calories. I want to say I ate 2,000 over the course
I
of a
ate a
day. Like,
full sleeve of Girl Scout cookies at 10 p.m. last night.
those are good too.
That sounds amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it was super similar. When they told me you're going to up fats, it's like against every CrossFit diet out there. They're like, no, you lower the fats, you up the carbs. And I was like, I don't know about this. I don't think this is going to work. And then, one day I looked in the mirror and I had abs and I was like, what is this nonsense? Like I've never
wizardry.
I mean, you go from being overweight your entire life. I had no idea. That's been kind of the coolest part about all this is every time you arrive at this next milestone, it's like, oh, that's what this looks like. So it was never like a scenario to where I was thin before. So it's all at my, I'm 35 years old. So every day it's kind of finding something new and exciting about it. And that does help kind of keep me going and driving.
Here's a question for you, Dylan. When you look in the mirror, who do you see? Do you still see that guy that was 300 pounds or do you see the new guy?
I see the new guy, and honestly, my brain has eliminated most memories of what it even felt like to be that big.
Really?
So I was talking to the owner of my gym the other day, and I was like, I don't know if it's because my brain viewed that as like trauma, as this was not okay. But essentially, when it comes down to it, I don't remember, having to like push myself up to get off the couch. I don't remember how that felt. Or essentially to pick something up off the ground. I don't remember how it felt to like just kneel down to go get it. It's just something that moving forward, my body just kind of forgot and has now adapted to who I am now.
Yeah, we're so resilient in that respect.
Yeah.
It's cool to see.
It's also really weird.
It's super weird. It is because that was years of your life.
Yeah, majority of my life. I mean, I've only been, fit, if you will, for 2 years out of 35 years. So I mean, it's crazy how our brains will just make that shift to being like, nope, this is who you are now. And we're good with it. So let's not think about that anymore.
I always wonder like how that is for people. Like I still have moments where I look in the mirror and I see the skinny fat dude that, from 10 years ago or 11 years ago. But then I'll have moments where I look in the mirror, I'm like, when did I get arms like that?
Dang,
or I'll do something. Like I remember vividly, we had a tornado here a few years back and a tree got knocked over in the backyard. And I went back there and the neighbors were out and it was like on a fence. And I wanted to get off the fence. So I just walked over to it, got in a clean position and I pressed it off and dropped it. And when it hit the ground, it made such a loud thud. It shocked me because it didn't feel heavy to me to move, but everybody looked around like, holy shit, you just moved that tree by yourself, And like your body knows what it's capable of, I guess is my point. But I still view myself sometimes as that person I was,
I struggle with that even like at different times of the same day. Like you ever wake up being like, dang, when did all right, this workout's been like kicking my butt. I've been like paying attention to whatever. And then after you eat lunch, you have like a food baby and you're like, wait a minute, when did I get huge?
Right.
I'm so big. I just feel like that's tough. That is like, I don't know about you guys, but I definitely have this. And I know a lot of my friends who are women have this too. It's just like the self-talk. It is a full-time job silencing that voice in your brain, the self-talk that's like you either look a way you shouldn't, or you sound a way you shouldn't, or you are a way you shouldn't be, whatever. That is a full-time gig right there.
Do you have pre-baby, post-baby self-talk still or at all?
Yeah, a lot. And I even have like post-baby, but like I didn't lose all the pregnancy weight, or like it's not even all weight, if I can be honest. It's just like your body changes so much and shifts so much. And like, you know, like I'm starting to get to that point now where I'm like, can I tuck my boobs into my socks yet? You know what I mean? Like after nursing. And it's just like, and some days I struggle with this. Some days I'm like killing it. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to really get back to where I was. I'm going to hit my numbers again. I'm going to put some effort into that. And then some days I'm like, I'm just going to get fucking pregnant again. So why am I even trying? Like, why am I trying to like, you know, kick my butt in the gym or really watch what I'm eating to lose that last 10 pounds that I always wanted to lose pre-baby, post-baby? That shit doesn't matter. And that's a struggle for me, for real. Depends on the day. Depends on when you catch me. I might be real motivated or I might be eating a sleeve of Girl Scout cookies at 10 p.m. Don't know.
Not hating on the Girl Scout cookies. I am not.
No, and either way, honestly, I feel like is honoring this season of life because the season of life I'm in is a little bit chaotic and I'm kind of okay with that. Yep. I'm trying to make that okay for me and to not get down on myself for being like, oh, what is it? What goal is it? Am I setting it or am I not? Am I sticking with it or am I not? I'm kind of like, this season for me is up and down. And I feel like I kind of need to honor that because there's too much going on to hone in on one thing or another. And it's kind of working. Yeah. It is because I might not necessarily be looking in the mirror every single day and being stoked about the way I look or seeing my numbers in Tribe every single day and being like, all right, I'm fucking crushing it 24/7. But there's enough like, oh, that was a great workout. Or like, I really did well, you know, like putting out a wide variety of healthy foods today for my family to eat. Yeah. There's enough of that going on that I'm like, okay, that's fine.
No, I mean, being consistent, that definitely, you know, that makes a big difference. At least that's what I talk about that a lot with folks at the gym. When they ask like, how do you get from, you know, A to Z here? And I'm like, just being consistent. And even when I mess up, just being consistent. You're talking about that voice in the head. Yeah, that never goes away. For anybody that is listening, it's something that I thought would go away. The one that's like, hey, you know, you should stop at McDonald's and get that breakfast. It's like, I just figured out that I don't have to do that. You know, and you don't have to listen to it. And it's a scenario that you carry it with you. And, you know, you're still manning the ship and owning where you're going. But yeah, you know, at the end of the day, you have to also be, you know, where you're at and that's okay too.
You know, I was joking with my daughter. We were driving home the other night when I picked her up from work and we were driving past McDonald's and she loves some McDonald's. Let me throw that out there.
Who doesn't?
I know.
My daughters too.
Yeah. And I have literally not had McDonald's in forever. I mean, it's been years, you know.
Yeah.
And at this point, like I don't miss it in any capacity, but I loves me a McGriddle, you know, like I remember they were great. I remember how much I liked it at the time. Is there anything you miss about it? Or have you gotten into fitness so much now you just don't even miss it anymore?
Or do you do it sometimes? Like you don't miss it because you're like, screw it. I do want the breakfast sandwich. I'm going to get it this week.
No. So like I don't miss McDonald's because I never really, it's one of those weird things. It's like, I like the breakfast. Don't get me wrong. But like Taco Bell. Yeah. That's like, if I'm going to break on fast food, it's Taco Bell. And I still indulge on, like I said, you know, donuts, if it's vacation or something of that nature. It's really that ability just to turn it back off. And I struggled with that. Like the first time I took a break, I was like, oh, this is awesome. And it's like, I wanted to keep going and I had to figure out how to get back to, you know, somewhat of a normal, you know, diet. But at the end of the day, now I can, you know, indulge for that weekend or indulge for, you know, vacation and be like, cool, time to get back to it. And I'm able to dial it back in, but it took a really long time to get there, mentally and really being okay with it. Jen actually shared, an interesting quote because I was down on myself after Wodapalooza because I went a little too far on the break. And I even told John beforehand, I was like, don't tell Jen I'm going crazy. And he's like, no, we don't tell them this. And
I'm gonna edit all this out.
Right.
Yeah, you're fine. And then you know, I went too far, but when what Jen said to me was, you know, there's a difference between accountability and blame, and it's okay that you're holding yourself accountable to the choices you made because they weren't without reason. You went a really long time, and you know, you did this goal, you got to Wodapalooza. hold yourself accountable to the choice that you made and get back to it. Stop dwelling on it. Blaming yourself is not going to do any good. And I've held that with me the last, 3 or 2 months ever since it's, Wadapalooza. And it's a great line to remember when shit's hitting the fan. So
do you have a trick when you want to get back, into it? Like, you go off the rails for a few days, like after Wadapalooza maybe, and you're like, all right, I need to kick it back in. Do you have something like a go-to? Do you have like a tracking mechanism or, something you do to make it happen?
Yep. So when I met Jen and Tom, they're like, hey, put the food in the day before when you're tracking. It's a lot easier to stick to it. So like that Sunday before, if I put it all into MyFitnessPal, then I'm way more likely to stick to it. Also, just, going through the act of like, just, I'm going to get breakfast ready and just kind of, see how that goes. But ultimately at this point, I also know how much better I feel when I am on the exact meal plan that I want to be eating. And I almost sometimes want to get back to it. I don't feel great when I go too far off the rails. In fact, the most recent time I was looking at my Whoop data, I had a spike in the middle of the night. My heart rate spiked up to like 60 beats per minute randomly when I was asleep. And I was like, well, that's not good after eating, ice cream and cookies.
Right.
And I was like, this is wild, because usually it's at like 44 beats per minute. And, just speaks to essentially feeling good when you're eating good. Then that helps me get back to it too. Just kind of, the more I do it, the more I want to just kind of stay there.
I did a really cool thing for the last 2 weeks. I wore a continuous glucose monitor.
I did that. Cool.
It was really neat. So I started working with this company called Nutrisense at my big girl job, my marketing job, doing ads for them. And they have the CGM, and it's the exact same one. It's the Freestyle Libre 2. So if you are a diabetic, it's literally the same technology. But they made a program to read it that is different. And it's like a for performance, quote unquote, CGM, as opposed to like a for people who are diabetic CGM. And the app just like, it tracks it really well. And there's like a shitload of data points. And the cool thing about them, not sponsored, again, should be, but I'll just plug it. The app comes along with a dietitian, like a registered dietitian or licensed nutritionist or whatever the actual thing is. And that to me makes all the difference, because when I wore a Whoop, I didn't like it because there was a ton of data, but I didn't know what it meant. It is kind of hard to read sometimes, or it's like, okay, this happened at night, but like why, or what does it mean? Or is it good or bad? I don't really understand. So for the cool part about this 2 weeks that I did this just as a promo with them was that the dietitian was like taking me through all the data points and explaining what they meant. And I think I, as a person, just kind of want to like, well, is it good or bad? Okay, my blood sugar was this. Is that good? And she's like, okay, well, that doesn't really exist. Like good or bad doesn't really exist. This is really complicated. So let me explain to you what all these numbers mean and how high they can go and how it's just like super relative to you, not just like a blood sugar number of this is good or bad. It's like, we need to look at like what you ate, and you can log your meals in the system. And it's like, okay, did it spike because of this food or that food at this time or that time? And when did it go back down? It was wicked cool.
Yeah. Anything surprise you?
That I didn't see a huge difference for me if I ate something with my coffee in the morning or not. And that was cool. But so normally this was the other thing, is like, I realized how much cold foam, like sweetened cold foam, I'm drinking. Because I used to just drink black coffee in the mornings. I really like a good black cold brew first thing. But then Matt started making me cold foam in the morning, and he'll like sweeten it with maple syrup. And did I tell you, John, about what happened with the cold foam a couple of weeks ago?
No.
Oh my God, he's going to kill me, but he doesn't listen to this podcast, so it's fine. Whitney's listening. She's going to laugh. So you guys, Matt makes me cold foam every morning now. It's really sweet of him, and it's delicious. And he flavors it every day. It's something new. It's like vanilla or maple. There's like a caramel one. It's delicious. And he'll always let Hunter like have a tiny sip of it, because he'll like froth it in a glass and pour it over my cold foam, and then Hunter will like have a drop, and it's just like sweet, heavy cream. So he loves it. A couple of weeks ago, I was getting ready for daycare, and he had some cold foam that was very normal breakfast. He had like had a little extra cold foam, maybe like a quarter of a cup. And as I was getting him ready, he like all of a sudden like slumped into me and he looks like he didn't feel good. And I was like, oh my God, here we go. He's going to throw up. He looked kind of like dizzy, like uncomfortable. He wouldn't let me take him off of me. And toddlers, it's like, all right, here we go. Norovirus. It's about to go through the house. Come on. But he like didn't throw up and he didn't have a fever and nothing was wrong. And then like an hour later, he just like sat up and he was totally fine. And I was racking my brain. I'm like, what happened? He had some cold foam. He had an egg. I don't know, whatever. And then it hit me. Oh my God, it hit me like a ton of bricks. And I texted Matt at work and I was like, please tell me that the vanilla you put in my vanilla cold foam was alcohol free. It was 35% alcohol.
Yes.
Ooh.
I love it.
He was hammered, you guys.
It hit quick. Yeah.
Oh, God. It's funny now. It was entirely terrifying at the time. But like, oh my God. And of course I know that because like moms know that. And there's like things you can do with like non-alcoholic vanilla if your breast milk needs like augmentation. So like whatever. And he just was like, vanilla has alcohol in it? What are you talking about? And I was like, oh my God, you got our baby hammered.
Look, I think the interesting thing about those glucose monitors and what you were going on.
Oh yeah, that's what we were talking about.
Yeah, and
Sorry.
I mean, I've gotten my kids drunk, but they're adults.
Oh yeah.
But kind of what Dylan's describing is that you have an understanding of what that's teaching you is what the food's going to do to you. What Dylan's describing is what the food does to him. And I do the same thing. I call it home base. Like when I go off the rails, I go back to home base. Yeah. I know what those meals are that will make me feel good. And I know how I will feel at the end of the day if I do 3 or 4 of them. So similar to Dylan, I don't put my stuff in the day before, but on that day, I track everything meticulously. Everything that goes in my body goes into MyFitnessPal because there's accountability to it.
Yeah.
100%. Like I know if it goes in, you're going to do it. And like, it's real easy to go, I'm not going to put that butter in. That's an extra 100 calories. You got to put it in because you need to see what it's going to tell you. And that's also how you learn. That's how I figured out this bone broth thing.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I looked up yesterday and I was at like 215 grams of protein for the day. And I'm like, holy shit, I'm going to be
how did I do it?
I'm going to get
yeah. I love it. I love it. So Dylan, before we go, I know we've really kind of like talked a lot about the fact that you lost this weight, this like certain number of pounds. And obviously that was a goal, but I would love to hear what kind of other goals you have right now or what's coming down the pipeline for you. Is there like a fitness goal or a competition goal, or maybe even something totally outside the realm of the CrossFit world?
Yeah, definitely. So I'd say the fitness realm, I am trying to get to that 12% body fat and see what that's like. So working with Jen to figure out how we get there. We're going to go into a strength cycle, which we are with the working outside of things. But with the diet side, we're going to just kind of stay where we're at so we can get down to that 12%. From there, I really want to get to quarterfinals one day.
Yay!
I was really close last year. This year, my strength wasn't there. And and this was, in my opinion, a very strength-based open. And it just wasn't there. So I know where I need to double down and really going to be focusing on that. And then, outside of that, it's, I want to continue to help people with my story somehow. Still haven't figured that part out yet. And really this is one of the scenarios where being on here, I hope really just kind of helps somebody that wasn't going to get started or thinking about quitting and kind of keep going and trying to figure out what that looks like for the future. But yeah, other than that, just doubling down and everything and continuing to, just focus on getting fitter.
Yeah.
I love it, man. I love the message of, I just relate to it as a dad of daughters of looking at a picture and going, man, I got to do it for that kid, and make that your driving factor. And then the fact you did it through CrossFit, it's like, cherry on top for us. Just, great hearing these stories of community and people supporting you. And, and then obviously, working with Tom and Jen, who I love dearly, is just, it's all great. So congratulations. Like you're really spectacular.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where I share my story and I continue to on social media and every time it always gets engagement for one person that's like, hey, I was thinking about getting started and this just kind of pushed me a little bit more. And that's just within, my private friend group. And at that point, I'm thinking like, how do I get this message out to folks at a broader range? And that's really what I want to do, because, being here with my kids, they're gonna get some form of fitness involvement. I can't imagine them not, and they already do kids CrossFit and all that stuff. So, in fact, they come to semifinals with me just to watch it, and they think it's a blast. They spent 20 minutes with Danny. She was showing my oldest is showing her Roblox, this game on her iPad.
Oh my God, how funny.
Dude, Danny sat there and listened to her for 20 minutes.
That sounds like Danny.
Sounds like Danny.
Yeah, I was so impressed. I was like, wow, you're actually engaging, because I struggle to sit there and hear about Roblox
You're
for
like,
20
listen,
minutes.
kid, I don't want to hear about your goddamn Roblox.
Yeah, exactly. Well, she's showing her like, you can change your outfits, and Danny's like, okay, got it. So it's just really cool, and just going out to the events and being involved in the community is really kind of, eventually I want to open a gym one day, but that'll probably be in the next 20 years, not right now.
Oh, cool.
I'm gonna stick to the tech industry for now, where I'm at, and one day I'm gonna go down that path though.
Cool. Those are great goals.
Those are great goals. Gym ownership's hard, dude. Jen will tell you it's hard.
No, I see that, and I'm friends with the owners of mine, so it's one of the scenarios where it's gonna be something when I hopefully don't have to. It's the only thing I can focus on, because I don't think I can do it right now with my job and kids and wife and everything else going on. But one day.
Well, look, I would encourage you, keep sharing your story online. I mean, obviously this will help getting it on the show, but keep sharing it online. Like people message me all the time, like, oh, if I had a platform your size, I would comment more. You shouldn't. Like, it doesn't matter if you have 100 followers, 10,000 followers, or 400,000 followers, or 1 million followers. Like, share your story. If it helps one person, that's monstrous. You've saved someone's life. And then the story that you're telling is actually saving lives. So just keep sharing it, and whatever we can do to help, please let us know.
Yeah. And where can people find you?
Yeah, I am on Instagram. My handle is Dylan, as you see there, .wah, and it is a private page, but definitely will add folks as they come. I mostly keep it private because my kids are on there, as far as their pictures go. So
that makes sense.
Yeah, but definitely happy to add people and share more, and just looking forward to getting the story out there.
Yeah, cool. And I'll drop in the show notes for Jen and Tom's business, To Be Human.
Great.
They've been working with Dylan. They work with me. They're really great. The thing I love about them is that they really take into account who you are. It isn't just like this cookie cutter. All right, you got to count these macros and do this, and it'll work. And they give everybody the same story. Everybody has an individualized story based off of your DNA, based off of your blood test, based off of the consultation they do with you, and then you get an individualized plan. And it's it's really unique that way, and they're real people, like
100%.
Trust me, I could give you stories that I'm not going to share on Jen and Tom on the open air, but they're real people, like they eat real food and do dumb stuff just like we do. So
they're just Jen and Tom, they're just like us.
No, what they're both way fitter than us.
Right. Also true.
Oh yeah. But that's how I show people, like, oh, you should work with Jen and Tom, and they're like, oh yeah, and I'm like, look how fit they are. And for whatever reason, they're like, oh, I should work with them.
That's right.
Just based on their fitness level. But yeah, I've actually had a buddy reach out recently to get their information. Yep. So super, super great stuff.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I'll drop them in the show notes too, so people can look them up, and I'll drop Dylan's Instagram handle so you guys can connect with him if you would like. And Dylan, thanks for joining, man. Super fun tonight.
So fun.
Awesome. Yeah, I appreciate the time. This is a blast. And looking forward to staying in contact with y'all.
Nikki, I will send you the link for the bone broth.
Yeah.
Hopefully you get it before Child Services shows up to arrest you for getting your kid hammered.
Should I not have told that story? It's too hilarious. It must have been told.
Yeah. Well, someday I'll tell the full story of how old Roy got me drunk at 11 months old.
Do you know what's funny? Every single person I have told this like hilarious cold foam story to has come back with like I got my kid shit face story. Like truly every single person.
Yeah. The 90s, 80s, all 70s. It didn't matter. Yeah.
Everybody's got one.
Everyone's got one. Or like our parents used to like rub liquor on our gums when we were teething.
Yep.
It's a miracle if any of us survived.
Truly.
But here we are.
Right. All right. Well, great seeing you guys.
Yep.
For everyone listening, thanks for joining the show tonight. We appreciate it. And we will chat with you guys soon.
See y'all.